Hello and welcome to the All About Ability podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Kyle Financial and Strathclyde House Buyers. Kyle Financial are proud supporters of local communities and specialise in helping you protect what matters most. For your family, your lifestyle and even your income, they have it covered. Kyle Financial are now offering free wills, regardless of whether or not you need any other service. Go check them out on the website www.kyle-financial.co.uk or check them out on Facebook, Twitter or even Instagram. Strathclyde House Buyers are a local property solutions company who specialise in helping people sell their property quickly with no fees. If you or anyone you know are looking for a fast, stress-free sale, check them out on the website www.strathclydehousebuyers.com on Facebook or on Instagram.
We'll go into it, and but it's just as we were talking about the military fitness there, like how did you what actually got you to that gym? Because I found him coming home. I was coming home for the.
Was it the hill?
I was just coming home, and then like he was coming out of the gym, and his car was there, and I kind of cut him off unintentionally. But my headphones were on, so I went over to like apologise and be like, "Yeah, I didn't mean that. Like, it was just because I was just trying to be nice." And he was like, "No, it's sound. Do you know that I own that gym there? And I see you going back here all the time. Do you want to come in?" And I was like, "Sure." But I was pure thinking it would just be like a wee nice workout or something.
No, it's not. It's brutal.
It's horrendous, man. Oh my god.
I know. You genuinely want to die doing it, and then you go, "Right, can I book back in?" And you're like, "That? What? Why am I booking back in again?" But
because you feel like you've done a workout, like you've went to like the next level of it. And I'll talk to him about it, and he'll be like, "This is nothing compared to what I used to do with the army and all that." Like, I can't even remember exactly what his background is, but it's something pure like. He's like the Scottish Jason Bourne or something. That guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, do what is it you do? Like who are you? Do you have like a wife and kids and that? He's like, no, I just train. It's
his whole life, isn't it?
And I'm like, how fit is this guy, man? Pure.
I know.
Honestly, this is a bit of a weird start to a podcast because I'm not even into this shit.
It's all right.
But you know, what's funny is, as I was coming here, I kept thinking of you as a wee PT, and I was like, you know, you need to say Vivienne McLaughlin. That's her name.
No, honestly, I was saying that earlier. Like, I go by the wee PT because I actually quite like keeping my name quiet. So that's like, you've just outed me now. But no, I actually quite like not having my name out there. So because people remember that, or they go, "Oh, that's that girl with the McDonald's logo." And then I'm known as that instead of my name. So I quite like it that way.
How did that name come about, the wee PT?
So I actually really liked the fat PT, and I loved his name, and I was like, I want his name. And then I was like, well, I can't take that. So I wanted something that described me and was quite ironic. So I thought, well, the wee PT, because I'm only 5'1", so it's a good way to describe
You're only
that.
5'1"?
I'm tiny. I'm so small. It's quite hilarious. When I stand next to people, it looks like they're taking their kid to school.
You seem so much taller than that when I came in.
No, see, if I stand up, you'll get a laugh.
I feel like,
tiny.
Do you think I would be the same height as you on my knees? if I knew down and you stood up?
You would, we'll be like the best pals, man.
I'd be like,
see that wee emoji when they're just standing holding hands and the same height? That'll be us, man.
You see, that's for me, it's like, whenever I'm talking to somebody, I'm like that. How tall are you? Because I remember someone did this last time, she was like 6 foot. I was like, I don't think this is going to work. It's just, I'm sitting down, you're standing up. It's too much of a
difference. No, man, perfect height.
Anyway, but so I was watching your Revolution interview there, right, on the way here, and there was a lot of interesting points to it that I wanted to kind of go over a wee bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Now, because you were talking about how you got into PT and like you were training, and then you had your kids, and it kind of made things scatter a wee bit.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like that's talked about a lot in terms of how much having children can change a woman's life.
It's not talked about even near enough. And when I looked at the coach that I used back when I had a kid, no one recognises that you have kids, and it plays a massive impact. And it's, just find the time. And I'm like, oh, wow, let me just whip the time out of nowhere, hun. Like, I'm literally in survival mode, trying to survive with 2 children here whilst working full time. Like, it's not as easy as just coming up with something like find time. So there's a lot of PTs are doing it now, but the ones that are really good are be more helpful in finding strategies to make it work. But a lot of PTs don't actually realise that you need to empathise a lot more with a mum. Things are just totally different to PT, a parent, over just a person that doesn't have, as we were saying, like Matt, it doesn't have the same responsibilities. It's totally different.
Yeah, like, because, I mean, I always think that, as I was hearing you talk about it, it was interesting for me because being in a wheelchair my whole life, one of the things that's always become apparent is the fact that your parents are very much like, they put you, my mum, her life has basically been based around making sure that I'm all right.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I can handle myself. It's like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. You can kind of chill out a wee bit, but it's still very much like, and it made me think about, do you have, when you get clients that are mums and they're having to deal with that, do you see that as like, do they ever struggle to put themselves first in that situation?
It's probably one of the most hardest things for a mum to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll probably notice now that you're independent and you'll go, my mum must have done so much for me. When was she going to look after herself? And that's the way a lot of my mums do it. And they'll go, oh, I've made my kids lunch, but I've just ate their leftovers. And I'm like, no, where's your food? Like, you've got the same right to eat as your children do, or like that. Some in newborn mums to newborns, Jesus Christ, I don't think I took a shower for about 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie. I stayed in the same jammies. I was like honking, but I'm like, you need to prioritise yourself just as much, because if not, your mental health just goes to absolute shit. And what use are you at that point when you're just a bundle of stress and nerves? For me, trying to prioritise mums looking after themselves means a happy mum's a happy child. They don't pick up on that negative energy, that stress, or that just overflow of being overwhelmed all the time. So that's why I try and focus on making sure they do prioritise themselves, because in the bigger picture, it makes things run like clockwork, rather than the kids having one life and you having another. And then it's like, how do I balance all this? And then they end up overwhelmed and go, well, what's the point? What's the point in trying to look after myself? And then they go back down into, right, well, the kids are first, I'm last again. So that's why I push it.
It's interesting because I feel like that's becoming more a common theme in every aspect, of the sense of finding a balance with everything. Like, I don't know what that feels like, but I can say that there's people that I know that do that with relationships and do that with other areas where the other person becomes first and they deteriorate into something else. And it's very much like, especially during the pandemic, you're seeing this shift in people that want to put all their time into something else, and you end up unable to look after yourself, which makes you less able to look after your kids, and so
definitely
this like sort of vicious cycle. But how do you actually go about like helping somebody out of that? Because what you're doing isn't really something that's highlighted very much or spoke about, and you because going back to my own example, like with my mum, it's like, I don't think that there was a lot of time when I've been harsh on. I've been like, you need to get in the gym, you need to take care of yourself and all that. But then the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, it's because all her time was just put into me and put into
that's that. A mum's whole existence is their children, and that's you are her whole existence. And then as you're getting independent, she's kind of like, oh, well, what did I do now? Like, this was my existence. So trying to get someone to break out of that cycle and go, actually, this is fantastic. Kieran's sort of getting independent. Now it's time for me to prioritise some more me time. What can I do in that time? But it's hard to get people to recognise that as well. So it is.
Because you need to, like, this is something I keep talking about in the podcast, but I feel like looking in yourself is the hardest thing to do. It's always easier to be like, it's this person's fault, or this, and that's, it's weird because I've done that where I've looked at myself and been like, this isn't, if I'm being honest, I'm not really looking at myself the best way here. This isn't going the way it should go. And it's hard when it comes to parents, because it seems like there's a different layer of, no, you don't understand what I feel towards this person.
Yeah, it is. It's. I think a lot of people are quick to blame everyone else for what goes wrong, and sometimes you need to step back and go, actually reflect on myself and see what I can do to change this. And with your kids, like, I'll do everything I can to help them, but I need to also take a step back and go, am I doing the right thing for me at the same time here, or am I putting them first and then forgetting about myself, and then eventually I crash and burn, and then the kids are like, oh, my mum's not really available to be the best support that she can be. So for me, it's, you need to sort of take some sort of accountability and reflect and go, how can I make my life, or how can I make myself and my situation better before helping someone else as well?
Yeah, because it's interesting, because I also feel like the actual, when you look at social media and things like that, there seems to be this idea that you're either like a total angel or you're totally all about yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Social media is, social media has its pros. It definitely does. It's made me a better person, that I can put more out there, I can help more people and things like that. But it also reaps full of narcissists that feel like they're helping a lot of people when they're not. They're actually putting a lot of dangerous information and a lot of dangerous views out there, or they're convincing people to do something that's not in their lane as well. So social media has its pros and cons, but it can also, if you don't look at things carefully, you're looking at half of a picture as well. So you can't really judge what other people do based on social media, based on likes, based on followers, because it's simple. Followers can be bought, but also social media could be deleted tomorrow. You still that same person? Or are you hiding behind a mask? Are you posting these quotes or whatever, or posting photos of people in order to get likes? Are you actually posting something that's right or true to your values? It's a different thing.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, because I feel like when you look at what your actual values are, that comes back to looking at yourself. And if you're not doing that, everything becomes artificial in a way.
Absolutely.
It's all, you're painting this false picture of what you are, and like you say, if social media was gone tomorrow, then what's left? And people
exactly.
people, when it comes to mental health and stuff like that, that seems to be the biggest problem. The biggest problem I had was like actually realising, like, I'm not looking at this the way that I should be looking at this. Like, it was very much like, oh, I'm in the wheelchair, this is quite grim. Do you know what I mean? There's not much of growing up, there's not much of a positive way of looking at it in your mind, because nobody's being positive about it. Everybody's just even going into a gym, it's very much like, you don't need to push yourself too much, because you've already got it hard enough. And that's very much detrimental to how you see yourself and what you can do, because I've always been the kind of person that wants to push themselves and go for it.
There's no point in me telling you not to push yourself too far. I'd rather be the person that pushed you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've got a situation, we've all got a situation, but I'm not here to baby that or belittle it in any way. At my point, for me, is a limit something that we create ourselves. It's not up to me to create a limitation for you. And like I says, come into the gym and I'll shout at you the same as I'll shout at the next person, and I'll push you the same as the next person, because that's what we're here for. But there's no point in people on social media limiting things, or when we're talking about social media. For me, I've lost a lot of weight and I'm absolutely covered in loose skin and stretch marks, and I felt like a failure because I didn't love myself. And that was down to the way I perceived social media. Everyone was like on this body confidence movement, which I'm not in any way dismissing, but there's also, it's all right to be neutral about things. For me, I don't like every part of myself, and that's absolutely fine. I don't need to bully myself for it, but I don't need to be fake and toxic about it and be like, oh, this is great and that's great. It's not great. I might think, oh God, I look like shit. But do you know what? I accept myself for those things, and I accept that was part of the process that led me to who I am today. But I don't need to feel like shit because I'm not on this positivity movement or this negativity movement. I'm just neutral about situations with social media.
You know, I've never heard that put like that before, but it's really, it's a great way of thinking about it, because
I felt like shit. I thought to myself, why do I not love myself? I'm a failure for not liking myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, you don't need to feel that way. Like, you can just be all right. Like, there's certain parts that I like about myself and my blunt personality. So we're laughing earlier. But there's parts that I don't like, and that's all right. I can choose to accept them. And it's a lot more better to deal with yourself that way than feeling like shit because you don't love something, or trying to force yourself to love something when you don't. It's not good for your head to feel like that.
Because I think accepting yourself is part of accepting the things you don't like about it as well.
Exactly.
You know, and it's this idea that you have to look at yourself like you're be positive all the time, and it's always
it's
nothing,
mentally
you know.
draining being like that. It's mentally draining. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not standing here being like, oh, I'm an arsehole and I'm refusing to change because I'm neutral about it. I mean, if there's things I can change, absolutely. Like, if you're being an absolute idiot, you can change that. But if there's things like, for me, I can't change stretch marks. I can't change it no matter amount of love or hate, or it's not going to change it. So be neutral about it. If it's a personality trait or something that you're putting out there, you can change something like that. So that's where, when we're talking about reflection, that's when that comes in, and you can go, see the vibe or the persona I'm putting out there. Is that the right thing or is it wrong? That's when you can change that. But you can't, things about your appearance, if you can't change it, there's no point in convincing yourself you need to love it. You can just be neutral about it.
Definitely. So when we're talking about like social media, how much of the body image, you know, for your clients is based around social media?
So it used to be a lot more. I used to have girls that would come in a lot more and be like, I look like her. And I don't watch reality TV much, but it was like, I want to look like her from Love Island. And I'd be like, hun, she doesn't look like that either. Like, it's social media. So now, a long time, my group of girls don't really need to have that view that they need to look like that person. We want them to look like the best version of them, not her, them. So when you come into the gym, and you'll need to come down and meet the girls, we don't go in with the fancy clothes or anything. We're absolutely grim. We've got the big baggy t-shirts on. We're not really there to give a fuck what we look like. We're there to give a fuck about what we do and how hard we work. So I try and encourage them to look at what's in front of them and better that and look like the best version of themselves, rather than looking like these influencers that are face tuned and edited and angles and lighting. And they look amazing in clothes because they're getting them for free and then we're getting them sent out. We can't keep up with that, so there's no point trying.
Yeah.
If we try and improve ourselves and the way we look and staying true to ourselves, it gets there. So that's what I try and focus on. Try and look the best version of you, not the best version of someone else.
Brilliant, because I think people have, you know, that's all very much like it's a fake life, it's a fake thing, it's not real.
Of course it is. Of course, oh God. There's an amount of people that, you'll meet me on social media and you'll meet me in person, and I'm the same blunt person, the same person that swears all the time, that's unfiltered. I look the same, I act the same. Even my pals actually slaughter me when I hit 10K. They absolutely roasted me for that, like, because they were like, oh, look, here's Emily Shack winding me up. But then you get the people that are on social media that might have followers, or they've bought their followers, and they've got the personality, a big toe in person. Like, they're just so fucking dumb and boring. And I'm like, how are you like that in social media, but pure a plank of wood in real life? Like, it's madness. So that's why I encourage people to take social media with a pinch of salt, because it's just sometimes an absolute lie. Like, people have these like attitudes on social media, and then you say about them in person, they're like, all right, like pure quiet. So that's why I just laugh about social media, and I just take it with a pinch of salt, because it's filtered. It's just a lot of it's great, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it's also a lie. So just be careful what you're viewing and who you're viewing, and that mute button's a godsend.
I mean, it's overwhelming in a way, because if you're focusing on yourself and you're doing the right things and you're doing well, but then you're like, oh, but I don't look like that, or I don't seem to be doing as well as this person or that person, it becomes like, no matter how well you're doing, your mind starts going, well, you're not doing well enough. And then that ends up becoming, you kind of fall into this negative way of thinking about yourself, which inevitably undoes all the work you've been doing. You start build, you know, the negative thoughts become bad habits.
Yep.
And so, as you're speaking about that, it just makes me think about, like, there's been more than once where I've been like on a good run and doing well with my fitness and stuff, but over the years, but it's been like, well, I've always been thinking I'm doing well, but I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm not doing enough. Because you see people, you know, you just see people with like 6-pack abs and doing, you know, get like 10 million followers for posting selfies, and you're like, what am I not doing here? What's wrong like that? I mean, but like you know,
it is. It's hard, but do you know what? I used to say to people, don't compare yourself, and actually, it's natural. It's actually natural to compare yourself. Like, it stems way back. It's how our brains work. We do compare ourselves, but for me now, rather than comparing, I mean, look at you. I'd love to have a podcast. It doesn't mean that I'm failing because you've got one. For me, it's more inspiring that you have one. And rather than looking at someone's achievements as a comparison to yours, look at their achievements and go, they've did fantastic for themselves, and one day that will be me. So rather than putting a timeline on, I need to have this by then, or I need to have this amount of followers or this amount of likes, for me, I'm sitting at 10,000. Look at 10,000 people standing in Glasgow. Look at someone with 10 followers. That's 10 people that want to listen to you. So to me, 100's amazing. 1,000, those people want to hear what you've got to hear. So it doesn't matter how many. It's the fact that people are listening. That's the important thing. But to me, when we're talking about comparison, someone else doing well doesn't take anything away from your journey. Yeah. As long as you're progressing and you're doing better, there's no timeline, there's no rush. We've got the rest of our lives to do it. And I bet you when you get there, for me, I wanted to be a PT. See, when I got there, I was like, right, what's next? So I'd already did that, but it's never going to be enough. Now I've got my gym, I love it, and I'm like, right, I want bigger. And then I've brought my friend Lindsay in, who's amazing. I'm like, right, I've got Lindsay in. What are we going to do now? So you'll compare yourself, but your timeline will keep progressing and you'll keep wanting more from that anyway. So you can't compare yourself to their destination from yours, because you might end up going to different directions, or you might go in the same direction, but it's tight. You just can't compare yourself. There's no point. It doesn't get you anywhere at all. Look at it as inspiration, aspire to be that, rather than it taking anything or belittling your progress.
Exactly, because I think that people, when you're everyone's on their own journey, and we talked earlier about how you go through certain things that make you who you are. Like, a lot of the negative things you go through are the reason why you feel like you are now. Yep. You're able to come through it because you faced those things and you came through that side of it. So I feel like as we're talking about that, it's kind of one of those things where, there's so many things you can focus on, but the most important thing to focus on is what are you doing day to day. Yeah. What are the habits that you're working on every day, and that's what eventually gets you to where you want to be. But I think because of social media and because of all these things around you, it's so easy to consume it. Yeah, to look at the big picture when what you really need to be doing is taking small steps. I mean, I've never really been good at taking steps, but
it's the second job.
you need to take wheels to the right direction. That's the point. I couldn't let you be the only one that was funny on this one. But yeah, so people are going to be like, I can't believe you said that when all the mums are listening to this. But no, the thing is that that's one of the biggest things I realised is looking at it and going, if you're not doing the small things, if you can't do small things, you're never going to do big things.
Yep. And see, the minute you start watching what other people are doing, you're taking your eye off your own shit. You need to focus on your own stuff. When you start watching what other people are doing, you drop the ball, or you start skipping those small steps, is what we're talking about, because you're like, oh, so-and-so's did this, so I'm going to jump in and do that, when they've probably worked up as part of a process and did those small steps, and they've earned what they've worked for, they've earned it. So we need to all do the same. We can be inspired and we can want to do what they do, but we all need to graft and put those small steps in to achieve that. So the minute you start watching them and comparing, you're taking your eye off the ball and what you should be doing for yourself.
Definitely. I feel like we're talking about this, but I feel people motivated by this.
Good. Welcome to my TED Talk.
But you were talking about how, so obviously when you had kids, you had to readjust things and come through how you were dealing with yourself. But how did you get from that point to then creating the gym and doing everything you're doing now? Like, what was the process like, and how did this all begin for you in terms of the actual gym opening up and things like that?
So I wanted to be a PT and I was going to balance it. I really didn't think it would be as big as it became. I didn't mean that big as in like massive, but like for me, from a business point of view, I really thought I would maybe have like a couple of clients a week on top of my job, and that would be it. And then as time went on, I realised I couldn't fucking stand my job. I was miserable. I ended up, the doctor tried to put me on propranolol because I was taking anxiety attacks, panic attacks, crying at my desk all day. And I was just miserable. And then something just clicked one day and I was like, this is a choice. I'm actually choosing to do this. I'm choosing to be in this situation. So I was just like, see your job, shove it up your fucking arse. 9 years of doing well. And I was like, see you later. And that was it. And then I just told myself, no, you're going to do something with this. You're going to be the game changer. So then when I was in Pure Gym, when I went in for the interview, I remember saying to the manager, he was like, how are you going to do this? And I was like, social media. And they're like, we don't really use social media in here. And I was like, right, well, I'm using social media. I'm going to be the game changer, and I'm going to speak to mums, and I'm going to tell them, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this work? So then when I went into Pure Gym, I always pride myself on being out on the floor, always had a target, introduced myself to 5 people a day, because the gym's terrifying. So I'd be like, hi, I'm Vivienne, I'm just on the gym floor. Do you need anything? Simple gesture to someone that's terrified in the gym. Knowing someone's name and knowing that they've got your back in that gym goes a long way. That started to get bigger and bigger. Then when lockdown happened, I thought to myself, right, what's the worst that can happen being self-employed? Well, fucking pandemic was the worst thing that could happen to someone being self-employed.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I'm locked down in my house with 2 kids. What do I do? How do I help people? And that's when I created the Zoom workouts, created a community of women. And that again started the ball rolling. People seeing that as much as a PT is a business, I want to help people, and I care and I listen, and I want people to feel understood. And doing those Zoom workouts created that community. It showed people on social media that I gave a shit. I wasn't a PT there to take your money. Right, see you later. It was a great hour. Catch you next week, buddy. No, I'm here every day. I'm here every step. Whatever you need. As I say to my clients, see me as your right arm. So from that, that's when I started to grow on social media. People seeing there's this girl giving out free workouts because she wants people to exercise. She wants people to improve their mental health by stimulating themselves rather than sitting on the couch watching box sets back to back. So once I'd sort of did that, I launched boot camp, and boot camp for me was the polar opposite of social media. I didn't have girls coming, as we were saying, in their wee matching fancy sets. There was no Snapchat filters in the gym selfies. We were absolutely hanging in dirt in a forest, clanging and throwing logs about. And that's when the brand started coming together. And as I named it, the Baggy T-shirt gang, women coming together that don't give a shit what they look like in the gym, beetroot faces, hearing people going, oh my God, my pelvic floor, I think I've pushed myself. Like, it was just wild. And then that's when I thought, this needs to be a gym. This needs to be a place where these women can come and feel accepted and not feel judged. That was what the goal was. And then we got there. So now that we've got there, as we were saying, I'm like, right, what's next? We're going bigger. Let's go bigger. Let's expand. Let's make more. So it will always be a growing process, but that's how it started. Another thing from that is when I was in Pure Gym, the barrier of mums was still there. I couldn't hold people's babies. I couldn't hold their kids. So it was still trying to find sessions that would accommodate mums, which is hard because it usually would be 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. But then I've only got so many hours in the day. So I was like, how did I do this? Whereas in the studio, as you'll see in photos, I've got baby carriers on, I'm holding babies, I'm holding dogs, anything, kids come in and get a wee hot chocolate or sweets or that. And we've now removed the barrier. There's no barrier there. They can come in with their kids, they can still exercise, they can still look after themselves, and their kids can also see that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Their kids see their mums doing, who sees their mum deadlifting? Like, my clients, they do their mums and see that. And you see some of the kids picking up kettlebells, and I'm like, this is what the process was, this is what I was building, and that's it coming together. So
it's really incredible because it all starts from you backing yourself. You know, that's a really risky decision to be like, I've been in this job 9 years. You know, the majority of people, when you look at that kind of thing, they just want to stay in the comfort zone, and they just in their life. And everybody,
it's easily done.
Yeah,
it's easily done.
But you decided that you had the presence of mind to be like, no, I can do this. Like, it's crazy, but I know that I can do it. And
there's always a fallback. That's the thing. See, if it didn't, but I would just go and get a part-time job if I had to. I'd go and work in McDonald's, Costa, whatever was near me. If I had to get rid of my car, get rid of your car. That's what you need to do. But it's an investment in the bigger picture. And I thought, what's the investment here? Absolutely letting my mental health go to shit and waking up and dreading every day, or do I believe in myself and go, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? You can always get another job if it goes wrong, but you need to put yourself out there and try, at least try.
Live the life that's going to make you the happiest. And it's like,
exactly.
You've obviously changed a lot of life doing that, which is amazing to see. Like, as you're telling it, I'm buzzing. I'm like, that's brilliant.
It's the dream. It honestly is. It is the dream. Like, I know it sounds so cheesy and I know that, but it really is. Like, I wake up and I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this again. Like, it's brilliant. Whereas I used to wake up and snooze my alarm and roll out of bed, go into work like a burst couch because I just couldn't be arsed with this. I go in now and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I go in and I get to see all these hilarious people and have a laugh and work hard, and it's honestly, I couldn't have picked a better life for myself than that.
You know, you were talking about how like the baggy t-shirt crew, which I like that. Like it's good because every time I go to work out, I'm like sweating absolute puddles, and I'm always like there used to be. It's interesting when you stop caring about that and realise that that's what you want to be doing. You want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I honestly, like, I'd love to look like those girls that go in and they've got their wee matching sets on and they don't sweat. I genuinely look like an absolute pig when I come out. Like, my hair is hanging. I've got eyebrows smeared across my face. Look like Heath Ledger's a fucking Joker by the time I'm done half the time. And I'm hanging and I'm like, do you know what? I'm done though. I did my workout. I feel great. And that's all that matters. So that's why it's the baggy t-shirt gang, because we don't really give a shit what we look like. We give a shit what we do.
And that's such a positive thing for, like, you know, young women as well, example-wise. Like, I feel going back to even as we're talking about social media and stuff, there's so much pressure to look a certain way and be a certain way and be that sort of, you know, fitness Instagram model type thing. And it's like...
Fitness... People think fitness is a look, and fitness doesn't look away. It's not. Fitness is it's a sense of well-being, and nobody looks the same, and you don't need to look fit to be fit. There's probably someone that looks way fitter than me, but I bet you they can't fucking deadlift what I lift. So you don't always see fitness with your eyes, but you just don't need to look at social media that way and be like, oh, they look fit. Some of the girls that come in look like absolute machines, and they probably lift less than the girls that kick about with the baggy t-shirts. So fitness doesn't need to be a size. It doesn't need to be an appearance. It's just a thing. It's
a feeling. The feeling's what's important. It's how it makes you feel. Like, that was something that really dawned on me was I was very much focused on, like, lifting heavy and all these different things. And I got strong and stuff, but I think the thing that started, you know, made like be more consistent with it was the idea that actually it's not really about how I'm looking from it. It's that every time I go and do a workout, I feel sharper, I feel better, I feel able to do more things. Yeah. And it's like it's an interesting. The more you do harder stuff, the easier life becomes.
Yeah.
And that became very apparent for me in the chair as well, just because you're, like I said earlier, very much encouraged to do nothing really. Like, nobody wants to say to you, you know, get out of the chair and do these things and make yourself uncomfortable, because that will help you. But because it's very much. I
think sometimes people are scared to offend.
Yeah.
And so, and what they don't know, they're not necessarily offending you, but they're creating a limit on you.
Yeah,
like, it'd be easy for me to be like, oh, Katie, mate, take your time. It's all right.
Aye.
Why? And then you'll go, oh, do you know what? She's right. Like, I just need to take my time.
Yeah.
Where do we get in life if we just take it easy? We don't get anywhere. But I said, but listen, mate, you've got a fucking chair and what? Let him what? You just still use your arms. Let's go. What can we do? Out the chair, move. Like, there's no point in me creating a limitation on you. There's no point in me going easy on you. Like, you're not any less of a person than anyone else. So there's no point in creating that limit as if you are.
I mean, it's very much like ingrained in you, because I feel like from school, even from like school to now, it was very much like we don't want to, like you say, we don't want to do anything that could put us at risk here if something happens to me and all that, because they see a chair and it's this big. So I always feel like the struggles that, like, I've been through in that sense that are very similar to how, for example, when you're talking about having that kind of group and how it doesn't matter how you look and you just go for it.
Yeah.
I used to have a problem where it was like I didn't want to come out of the chair, because I'd go into a local gym and you'd come out your shed and you'd do your workout, but you'd turn around and realise that the whole gym's watching you do your workout. It was like, why you watch it? But it was like, I understood as I got older that it was very much like some of it was concern, but most of it was like, look at this guy doing this.
Yep, that's it. It's admiration more than a lot of things. But see, the thing is, see, if you're insecure about something or you're a bit unsure about something, you're projecting your insecurities as well. So for me, do you know what I say? It's not really even comparable, but I think you might have seen my story. I got my lips done and it went absolutely Pete Tong, right? So I looked like fucking Craig David for Bo Selector, to say the least, right? I looked like a pit bull chewing a wasp. and people would look at me and I'd go, they're looking at my lips. They probably weren't even fucking bothered, but because I felt insecure about something, I was like, that's what they're looking at. They're staring at me when they probably aren't. Like, probably looking at something else and going, her hair's shite. But you get my point that if you feel that something is maybe an insecurity or is something like that, then you automatically assume people are thinking the worst when they're probably not. So a lot of it's actually down to the way our beliefs and the way we see ourselves rather than the way other people are looking.
That's 100% right. You know, that's what's changed my whole life, is looking at it that way, because you realise that you're, you know, if you can't control how anyone else feels about you or sees you.
Yep.
It's all down to you. We're all living in the Truman Show. Do you know what I mean? So
let me tell you, this is one thing, and I say this to some of my clients: see what people think about you. It's none of your business. That's what I always say. See what people think about me. It's none of my business. I know me. I like me. I know what I can do. That's it. So if other people want to stare at you or look at you, that's their business. Leave them on their way with their business, and you focus on you and your capabilities and what you can do. So I always say that. When people say things, I don't really get it as much, but sometimes if someone says something about me on social media, I'm like, that's their business and I mind my own. That's their opinion of me is their business, and my opinion of me is my business, and that's it.
Because at the end of the day, your opinion of you is the most important opinion. That, you know.
Exactly.
So the big point about this as well is once you're able to see yourself as the best version of yourself, you're able to affect people in a more positive way.
Yeah, and you allow people to also do the same. If you feel you're the best version of yourself, you then enable people to do the same, and you inspire them to do the same as well. So you looking after yourself has a much greater impact than you realise.
Definitely. So see, as we're talking about like what you've got going on with the gym and stuff like that, one of the things that was interesting to me is we've seen a lot more like, you know, women only gyms kind of thing, and I've always been curious in the sense of like, do you think do in terms of if a woman goes into a gym where there's loads of men lifting the weights and stuff, have you ever had experience of the idea that there's like more pressure, there's like a more of a, you're not as able to be relaxed because you don't know what these guys are.
It depends on the
doing.
crowd.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are just minding their own business, or sometimes they'll sort of watch you lifting because they then get a bit competitive and go, she's lifting that, what am I lifting? But then on the flip side, you do sometimes get like, I'll use an example, I was hip thrusting in Pure Gym and a guy was watching me in the mirror, and I call people on things, so I was like, see, if you keep watching me, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then he was mortified. So sometimes you just need to have the confidence to call something as you see it. For me, the reason I do, it's not even necessarily a women's only gym. Guys come to my classes sometimes here and there. It's more the fact that I wanted women to have a go-to person.
Yeah.
Whereas if I take on, there's a lot more male PTs than females. So if I take on male clients, I'm robbing a spot from someone that maybe needs that female approach. So for me, I was like, if I'm only available for these women, then it means I can help a lot more than a male would maybe feel more comfortable with a male PT anyway. Especially even with mental health, for me, I didn't really, when I had postnatal depression, I didn't really want to open up to a male about it. I didn't want to feel vulnerable to a male, and I can understand a male probably feels the same. A male might not want to open up to me and go, I'm really struggling right now, Viv. So I thought for me, it's also given a male PT an opportunity to work with a male, and me an opportunity to let a vulnerable woman take that spot and open up. But in terms of the gym, no, guys come down and train and use the gym as well if they want. There's enough equipment and there's plenty of weights in that they can use. I just went down the female view so that I could help more females as such, and have that sort of safer place that there's no risk of a male PT overstepping the mark. And I'm not tarring all PTs with the same brush. There's certainly, as I discussed with you before filming, there's some excellent PTs. Chris Bradley's one that I always highly rate, the Glasgow PT, but there's also some PTs that overstep the mark. And for me, I'm like, the more availability I have for women, the more I'm protecting them from potentially going into these people's arms, unfortunately. So that's kind of the method and the madness of female PTs.
Yeah, because, well, you want to be able to relate to the person. That's key as well, especially if you're a mum in that situation where, you know, I think people are able to take advantage of vulnerability quite a bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, a big part of the reason why I'm saying that is a lot of, I've just seen, you know, I can see why women could be uncomfortable in those situations.
Yeah.
'Cause you see it in gyms, I've seen it in gyms where, like, I'm like, mate, let her do a workout for God's sake, because you're clearly right in her face and she's trying to do squats and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
back off a bit here. That's weird what you're doing. Like, it's more common than it should be. And it's one of those things that, like, if you're a woman in that situation, I'm sure there's an element of, I don't really, you know, if a big, strong guy is doing that to you and you're trying to do a workout, you know, it's intimidating to be like, here, back off me here. I'm trying to do this workout. So, you know,
don't even need to do it in a confrontational way. I do it in a passive aggressive way. I go, "You all right there, buddy?" And then they're like, "Oh shit, she spotted me." And that's the way I would do it instead. But sometimes you just need to call behaviour while it's there so that you can feel better. And if not, just say to a PT, "Listen, go do me a favour, I'm feeling a wee bit uncomfortable. Can you hover and spot me? Or could you just hover and have a wee chat?" There's plenty of PTs on the gym floor for that reason. Or like I say, just say to the person, "Listen, I feel a bit uncomfortable. Would you mind budging a wee bit?" And see if they say no. At that point, they've said more about themselves than they have you. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, the way you see it is completely, that's the way to do it. But it's just, I always think that, like, people are put in these situations, and I think you want to give them the opportunity to actually just feel comfortable and do these things they want to do.
Yeah.
Even
we shouldn't need to feel like that, and it's unfortunate that we do need to feel like that. But there's certain things we can do to try and make it better. But it's a shit situation.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about PTs like overstepping the mark a bit, and you know, we're talking about mental health and things. One of the things that I've spoken about in this before is that you see a lot of PTs try to be somebody's therapist almost, and it's becoming this, you know, in a sense, because mental health has become such a kind of global issue for everybody, especially during the pandemic. I feel like it was also a big issue before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But because of the pandemic, it's given a more of a light to it.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that it was a lot of people's distractions were taken away.
Yeah.
Even
like the lockdown was like solitary confinement for a lot of people, and you're going to drive yourself absolutely insane in those four walls. So you're absolutely right. It did sort of take off a bit wild during lockdown. Like, people were losing their shit. Sorry, I cut you off there though.
No. I wanted you to say that. You should be talking more than me. I tend
not at all.
I tend to.
I'm like, just give me the mic. Take it over.
I tend to ramble with things.
No, I think mental health has its place. It does, and as PTs, we can give you our suggestions. Now, there's also, I don't know if you've heard, he's actually fantastic to interview, the mental health PT.
I've not, but that sounds...
So the mental health PT is fantastic, but he is qualified to do so. Right. So he now offers a course in that, but if we are not qualified in that area, we either go and do that and get qualified, or we need to be careful here. Yeah. We are not here to... we cannot make these changes for people. It's dangerous territory, and if we've not got that qualification or the correct knowledge, that's a dangerous place to be handing out advice. I can say to people, as we were talking about before we started recording, if my anxiety kicks off, I can say, "Listen, Kieran, I've been there, my anxiety's been bad, I've used the app Headspace, it helps me switch off and get to sleep. That's something I've personally used. However, I cannot say it's gospel. I cannot say go and do that, it will work." Because it might not work for the person. It might be something that, well, for me, I had a bit of a shite childhood in certain things. And for a PT to then go, "Oh, you should open that box up and talk about it," is that the right call to make there? Or is that you're treading on territory here that you shouldn't really be doing? I should then, if there was something, I could go, "Listen, this is out of my field. However, I can recommend you to someone to talk to, or I can recommend this or that. But if it's out with my field, don't tread on that territory." Or if it's out with my field, go, "This is out with my field at the moment, but I'm going to ask someone that has got the qualification in this, and I can come back to you." Or I can go, "Viv, this is actually a skill set you're missing. Go and work on that. Go and get the qualification, and that'll allow you in turn to help people in the process." But I think a lot of PTs need to be very careful what they're talking about, who they're talking about it to, and just not to give out information that isn't always fact or isn't always correct as well, because you have no idea whose brain you're messing with at the end of that there. The sad thing is, though, because mental health is so spoken about, it's also a great way for people to get likes on social media, because they go, oh, look, he and she's talking about mental health, so I'm going to like that. When are they talking about it because they care about mental health, or are they talking about it because that shit gets them likes and followers on Instagram? So that's why it's really important that we do what's true to our values and our personal training, not necessarily stepping in on other people's toes and going into the depths of mental health without actually having the qualifications to do so.
Well, there's a lot of things to touch on there, but to go back to when you're talking about like opening that box of saying, like, if you're saying to somebody, you should go and talk about your childhood, if there was certain things that were on there, and if you're doing that and then they do that, but they don't have, you're not a therapist, so
that's that.
Where's the support coming for them to actually talk about it? All they're doing is bringing all this negativity to the forefront of their head, and then having nobody to actually go through it with.
Yeah.
So really, you're putting that person in a really bad spot by doing something like that. Or you could be. And then to go on from what you were talking about, like, actually, when you see people talking about mental health and things like that, there's a lot of it, but it feels like when people see that this is becoming like a very much a talked about mainstream issue.
A trend.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. It's a trend.
It is.
And people, are very good at manipulating trends.
Of course they are, to their advantage, absolutely. God, there's so many PTs, even PTs close to home for me, that are doing it. And I'm like, stop. Do you know, what was the one? So a PT posted about a woman miscarrying and made it about themselves. And I was like, going to do me a favour, see if you've, it's heartbreaking people miscarrying and things like that, but don't go and talk to a PT about it. Go and talk to someone and get the right help. So instead of cashing in on someone's misfortune for social media and for likes, if it's a great thing to raise awareness for, like for me, if I had to raise awareness about miscarriages, put the right people out there though. Here's the charity for this. Here's who to talk to for this. Don't then take it as in, oh, I know all about this because I've experienced this, so I'll tell you what to do. It doesn't work like that. My experience and someone else's experiences are totally different. How I handle something and from the person next to me is totally different. So you need to send that person to a professional in that field. We're not professionals in that field, do you know what I mean? So, for example, a counsellor can tell you to go and exercise. Can they give you an actual exercise programme? No. So that's the same as me. Don't step on a personal trainer's job, and the same as me. I can be there and I can listen to someone, and that sometimes happens in PT. I can listen, but it's not my job to then say, you should try this, this and this. No, listen, thank you very much for opening up with me and being vulnerable. However, I suggest you go to so-and-so, and they might be able to help you process that better and do it like that. But for me, if I had to open up about my childhood and you go, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Right, great, what do we do now? I've just, as you say, brought that negativity to the surface, but how do I deal with it?
Yeah.
We're not here to do that. So at that point, it would be more go to a counsellor or a therapist and go, I had a bit of a hard time here. That person's job is then to help you process that and then maybe come up with a strategy to work through it or to handle it or to deal with it in your own way. But for personal trainers, we shouldn't really be doing that unless we're qualified to do so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the way you're putting all this, I'm like, you should do a podcast. you should do a podcast.
It's going to be all about ability and PT. Just going to slip in there and be like, hi guys, it's a partnership now.
I mean, we could do like a wee PT and Hot Wheels or something. Like that.
Oh my god! See you. It's the third one.
You can.
I need to come with a comeback here.
And I see that's the beauty of this, right? Because you were talking about how, so when you're actually doing the gym and stuff like that, you were able to see that there was a specific area that wasn't being helped with. Mums and different how we can support these things. And so there's a lot of PTs and a lot of different things, but you're thinking, well, there's so many of them. How can I make this? How am I going to make this for something for myself, type of thing?
Yeah.
And that was kind of where I was coming from, realising that nobody else can make these jokes. Do you know what I mean? But if you make these jokes and you're not in the wheelchair, you kind of come across like a dick, you know? But because I'm
you need to see if you don't laugh, you're great.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I'm the same. Like, with my loose skin, see before people be like, and I'm like, my belly looks like a fucking melted welly, and it's all right to joke about it. Like, you see, what is that we're saying? If you don't laugh, you're great. You need to put a spin of humour on things. It's the best way to deal with it.
We'll see as well when you're talking about, like, if you're when one thing is different for somebody, everything's different for people, and that's something that I've realised the more as well is you realise that everybody literally is different. There's always something about you that's different from somebody else, and I think that's what helps people the most is you're actually realising that you have your own uniqueness to it.
Yeah.
And once you find that, you can do anything with it. Like, we're too much of it. We're all trying to put ourselves in the same box. So when you're talking about your own experience and you're saying, this is what I've been through, this is how I fixed it, and it's going to work for you, it's just not the way it works, because they have a different set of experiences.
Yep.
And
everyone's brain's different as well.
Exactly. They've took it a different way. Like, we don't know. You've processed what you've been through a certain way, and I've processed what I've been through in a certain way. But like, you don't know how they're feeling about it, really. You know, so I've started to refrain from saying to people, like, when somebody says, "Oh, I'm struggling with this, struggling with that," and I'm like, "Oh, I know how you feel," but you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I've also found as well as, see, when you sometimes say, "I know how you feel," sometimes I feel like you're dismissing someone's feelings at the same time. But I used to do the exact same. And if you go, "I'm tired," "Oh, I know how you feel," "I did," and then before you know it, you've just went from story topping them instead of just saying, "I'm really sorry you feel that way. Is there anything I can do to make you feel better?" Or something like that. So rather than saying, "I know how you feel," because nobody knows how anyone feels, and rather than sometimes if you go, "I know how you feel," then that person goes, "Oh, well, they're feeling a bit down, so I can't open up and say I'm feeling a bit shit," because they go, "Well, that person's feeling shit too, so I don't want to burden them with it." So sometimes it's rather than being like, "Oh, I know how you feel," or "I've been there as well, mate," go, "I'm really sorry you're feeling that way," and just acknowledge the person's feelings rather than jumping on top of them or dismissing them at the same time. We don't realise that we're doing it though. You're trying to empathise with the person and say, "I understand how you feel," but sometimes people don't take it that way. They take it as in, "Oh, your feelings are more valid than mine," or "Oh, your experience is worse than mine." So sometimes I would just rather say, "Listen, I'm sorry you feel that way," or "Listen, do you want to talk," or this or that, or rather than sort of saying, "Oh, this or that," or "I've been there," "Right, cool, I've been there." How's that helping anyone? Do you know what I mean?
Because I think what you said there is people need to feel heard, you know, and you're unintentionally in some ways, but you're instantly going from this is, you know, if somebody opens up to you and then you right away you're saying, "Let's talk about me," but it's kind of how they're hearing it. Yeah. You know, so there's a lot of that going on, and I think there's a big want to tell your story. You always want to talk about. I mean, I've mentioned some of my stuff here, but like in terms of, I see people where it's like, you know, even in podcasts, is let the person talk and actually have the conversation.
This is why I'm so funny about podcasts though, because sometimes I go, "Can you shut the fuck up and let the guest actually speak, mate?" Like, exactly. Can you actually, like, they're a guest for a reason, let them talk. Like, and I go, "This is so now read the reviews on podcasts before listening to them," in case I give away. But
because it's so easy to talk, but it's so much harder to listen. You know what I mean? And that's because you can set out a bunch of questions, but if we start talking about something and then I just switch it to a totally different, like without going through what we're actually speaking about, how does anyone know that you're actually paying attention to the person talking? Yeah. But that's not just a case in podcasts, that's a case in life. And it seems like because of social media and because of all these different elements that we're living in now, everyone's so keen to say, "This is what I've been through." And this will help you because I'm here and I've been through it. And it does help people in the sense of, I'm not alone, you know, but there's also, you need to realise that there's your elements to this that you need to figure out. By going to professionals and talking about these things and actually realising that, you know, telling your story is one thing, but also being able to take someone else's in is a whole different kind of skill.
Yep. Even that's a good example when you're saying, like, telling your story. So I achieved a weight loss transformation, and I'll share it here and there, but it's not about me. The WPT is not about my transformation, it's about helping other people transform. So it takes you a wee while to scroll down my Instagram and see mine, because that's not about me. That's my brand, and my values is about helping other people. So there's no point in me being like, oh, this is me and this is that. People don't give a shit about what I did. They give a shit about what I can do for them instead. So like that, and a lot of people can be a bit narcissistic like that on social media, but it's all about them and it's all about their journey, and they forget that they're maybe dismissing other people in the process, or they're dismissing their clients in the process of doing that. That's great that you've achieved that, and that's wonderful, but don't take it away from your clients' achievements as well, or what they've did. So that's why I don't share my journey as much anymore. I'm more interested in sharing my clients' journeys, because I want them, as you said, to be heard, to be seen, to be acknowledged, and to feel valued as a person.
And I feel like that's particularly important from a PT standpoint. It's like that is your, job in a way, is to encourage their journey, because you're here, you've got through it, and you've obviously done a lot of amazing things. It's like now that you're able to relay that, and it's the best thing you can do with the experiences you've had and the things you came through, is to help someone else with it. Yeah, so we're similar that way, because this is exactly why I'm doing this, just in a different sort of way, obviously, but. Like the actual, you're wanting to help people realise that being in a wheelchair or any kind of disability isn't like a life-ending thing. Do you know what I mean? I think
it's obviously a massive part of your life, but it's not your identity at the end of the day, and people need to recognise that you're Kieran. You're not a person in a wheelchair. You're Kieran, and what you do with that is up to you. You could be, oh my God, Kieran's an absolute arsehole. Or you could be the person that you are, and you could have this podcast, and you could be, do you know what? I might be in a wheelchair, but I tell you what, I put so much positivity out there, and I put so much good energy and so much help out for people and support. So just because you have something, it doesn't define who you are. At the end of the day, it's what your actions and your beings, that's what puts you out there and shows people who you are and what you do at the end of the day.
Definitely, and like I wouldn't even. People ask me like, if you could not be in a wheelchair, would you take it? And I say no, which is weird, which freaks people out a lot, because they're like, why would you not want that? But it's because of the fact that I don't know, I wouldn't be who I am if I wasn't doing that. So
yeah, no, I can understand that.
So
can understand that.
Like, so there's a lot of element of the thing that you don't like about yourself tends to be the thing that actually is what makes you really. So
yep. I could not agree with that more. Could not agree with that one more.
But as we're talking about your journey and how you actually dealt with all that, like see now that you've got all this going on, and you've figured out your own. What is your structure like? What is your like day-to-day habits? Because I feel like the more I'm looking into it, the more I'm realising that what I'm doing daily is the most important thing. The wee things are. Yeah. So how do you keep it now that you've got all these clients and you've got the gym and you've got all that stuff going on? How do you keep it balanced for yourself?
So I'm going to put my hands up here. It's not always perfectly balanced, and I'm human, and I'll completely acknowledge that. For me, what I've tried to do is make sure that I was letting go of the exercise, and I was like, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here, telling people to exercise when I'm not doing it myself. So that's just when I went back to the drawing board and realised that as much as I want to help everyone, I can't help everyone. So choose some that you can help, and also look after yourself, because if I don't look after myself, I can't help my team. Yeah. So that's when I sort of was like, right, Viv, you need to make sure you factor in 5 sessions a week for yourself. So I schedule it in my phone, and I put it over to Lindsay, who trains with me, every single week. This is what I'm doing this week, the same as I would schedule in a business meeting or a podcast or anything. I factor in my own self-care into my daily routine now, the same as I would anything else. So for me, I tend to get the kids off to school and nursery, then I go in and work, and then the kids will get picked up by dad. I'll then carry on with work and then go up the road, deal with my social media on my 2 days off, to factor that in. But I just make sure in day-to-day life that I try and make sure that I'm looking after myself as well as my work, because if not, one, as I was saying, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite by telling people to do something that I'm not doing myself. And two, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if I feel like shit, I can't be the best person for my clients. You probably find, don't know about any of you guys, but if you don't exercise, you get a wee bit irritable, and stuff that could maybe irritate you, which shouldn't irritate you, can then reflect in your body language or things like that. So for me, if I exercise every day and I make sure that I look after myself in my day-to-day life for at least an hour, I'm a much better person for it. So I just try and make sure I plan ahead, make sure that I factor in everything that needs to be done that week. And that's kind of my way of trying to achieve balance. But it's never perfect. It's always a work in progress. And there's always things that I've learned to delegate things out. If I know that I can't do it, then I'll go, right, I need to hand this to someone who can do this better for me so that I do achieve a better balance. Or you end up burnt out and overwhelmed.
Well, it's about practicing what you preach. Like you say, you need to be true to your values. And then also from that, you're looking at it and going, well, if I'm not at my best, I can't help other people be at their best. But there's always a constant, like you're saying, that it's not always perfect, and there's a constant, like, you're going to have good days and bad days. Not just because people figure things out doesn't mean they're going to be feeling good about themselves all the time. Because I think we need to acknowledge the fact that feeling bad is part of life. It's not. It's not something that just disappears. There's always going to be times where you don't feel great. But it comes back to what's keeping on the days that you don't feel bad. On the days that you feel bad, you keep that routine. You know the things that will get you through the bad time to feel good again. And that's a lot of that comes down to actually just knowing yourself and knowing, what are the do's and don'ts here, or what I need to do to feel better. Because see, if we only worked out on days that we felt like working out, you wouldn't really, you wouldn't achieve shit. You wouldn't
like, to put it bluntly, you wouldn't achieve shit. Like, at the end of the day, like, succeeding is a process of doing things that you like and doing things that you don't like to get it done. At the end of the day, we're here to do something, and that's it. And for me, what would be more painful than an hour of exercise would be to look in the mirror and not recognise the person that's looking back at me. So for me, it might be a short-term ball breaker for an hour, but it's for a greater purpose at the end of the day, for me to feel my absolute best. So I'd rather train on the days that I don't feel like it and then walk away and go, thank God I did that, than go up the road and look at myself and go, Jesus Christ, Viv, like, you look done in today, like, you look mentally drained. What was the point in letting the ball drop there? So you need to make sure that you're consistent with it, so that the bad days become less bad days and the good days become more frequent that way.
For sure, like constantly self-checking yourself. Because even something you said earlier in that, which I thought was interesting, was when you don't work out, you find yourself more agitated and more easy to get in arguments and things like that, which is so true. And one of the things that made me realise that was exactly true is that I don't know if you've seen this, but I've done this fitness challenge thing for charity, where I was doing a marathon a day for 30 days. Oh,
I think I caught the end of this, because this is how we sort of met each other on social media, so it was just at the tail end I'd caught you doing that.
So what you're going to find this amazing, but what I done was basically 1,000 kilometers in a month. So in April, for it was for mental health charities, but it was through the Celtic Foundation. I always I say that first because people just hear Celtic.
Sorry, darling, I'm a Celtic fan.
But I'm trying to not alienate all the Rangers fans that listen to this, but no, there's so no worries. But what was I going to say? So will we stop now? No,
I kind of switched the camera.
Oh, my double chin's on camera. Enjoy. Unflatten an ankle.
No, I should have. I was like, I need to get a bicep pump for this, because she's gonna make me look like shit in these pictures.
I look nothing like a PT. It's so funny when people say, "Are you a PT?" And I'm like, "Aye, mate." I don't look like one.
No.
Don't look like a typical PT.
I mean, I would say I look like a PT. Like when I mean PT, I just mean like you look like a healthy person. So, you know what I mean?
Should see me, man. Should see me.
No, but I'll save that bit for the podcast. But that, by the way, you should. This has been dead easy. I feel like this has been.
Oh, good. I'm glad. See, I'm actually like, I don't shut the fuck up, but I'm actually quite easy going.
Yeah.
Like, that's why when he was a bit nervous interviewing me, I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. I hope you don't feel that for me.
I'm a pure hugger, man. So I walked in, hugged him, and he looked pure nervous, and I was like, "You okay?"
He's like, I've not hugged a woman in years.
He looked a bit terrifying. I was like, "Oh God."
I don't know. He seems like he's a nice guy, but he does seem like he's got a bit of an anxiety thing.
Yeah. I got that from.
And he's really trying not to let you see it. Well, obviously, we just kept talking there, but you probably that wasn't part of the podcast stuff.
We're just getting our bicep pump on.
Right. So
Just explaining the challenge.
right, yeah. So it was 1,000 kilometers in a month, and basically what I had to do was a marathon a day for 30 days. So 40k a day every day for 30 days. And it was so funny because, like, the reason why I'm mentioning this is just I felt so chilled out, man. It was unbelievable. Like, it was really difficult, right? It was dead difficult. But see, when I would finish the 40k, I'd be in the gym for like 10 o'clock in the morning until about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, trying to get this done.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, the guys at EDA can attest to that. But honestly, see, when I'd come home, as much as I was sore and stuff, I was like, there was people, you know, your wee things that you normally argue about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the world that
You're just too zen for that shit at that point.
I was just like, look, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
And that's something that's interesting. Like, see, the more you push yourself, the more it's like, there's this almost like a weight from your mind that's been lifted.
Oh, definitely. Completely agree.
You're just more chilled out about it all. And,
yeah.
Have you ever done something like that, like a 40k or 50k?
I think I could do like a 10k eating challenge or something like that. Like, I get a good one. Like I eat like fuck. No, I got headhunted for SAS 2 years wins, and then COVID happened, and I was like, oh damn. This is where I was fat and can't run for shit right enough.
You can run better than me.
So I'd like to try and do that. See you.
That makes it 5. I feel like I'm making this like a gimmick part of the podcast now, and I just make this because I had.
You should find someone really shy, right, and make all sorts of jokes just to see how uncomfortable they'd feel. Place wagers to see how long till they crack.
We'll get a guest on and just be like, let's see how uncomfortable we can make this guest feel.
Me and you be the best combination for that then, because I've got this pure amazing ability to make people feel uncomfortable. That
would be quite a unique thing to do. We should do that. Like, it could be
Let's just make like a pure YouTube sensation, mate. Like, patch our jobs, we're going to get it.
We're going to win this thing.
No, I've got Tough Mudder coming up in a few weeks, but nothing like really over that I've felt that I've been overly challenged with, apart from competing in bodybuilding. That was the one that I was like, I need to set a goal so ridiculous that people laugh, and bodybuilding was that. It was brilliant, an amazing learning experience, and it was grueling towards the end, but you know yourself, when you do anything that challenges you, you learn a lot mentally about how resilient you actually are with it. So that was good, but I definitely would like to do something like a fitness challenge, so maybe we could come up with something actually. So
here we go again, Polly. Like, honestly, I'll never forget the day that we came up with that idea. It was like it was suggesting that we do a certain. I keep forgetting the name for this man, but it was like the whole of Britain basically, of the distance that we're in it, and it's like 900 and something kilometers. And he's like, well, if you're going to do 970 kilometers, you may as well do 1,000. And I was like, aye.
I'll just find extra couple of cake. Sorry.
No, because I'd been doing like 10Ks and 20Ks during lockdown and feeling good and feeling fit, and I was like, I could probably. Do you know that way you're like that one of those pure gym mentality bro guys, and I'm like, I could probably do this. And I'm like 2 days on 10, I'm like, I cannot do this. But we got there in the end, and I'm still my body.
How amazing was that? I felt though. What did it feel amazing?
It was quite an emotional day the last day.
Like, I could imagine.
To be honest, because there was so many points during it where I really didn't feel good about myself and didn't feel good about it, because it was like I've told everybody I'm going to do this and it's for charity, and I really don't know if I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting thing because once you, it was basically you're winning a mental battle every day.
Yeah.
And that's what the physical pain came into it pretty strongly.
It's mental. It's trying to get your brain to keep a hold of it together, because it's so easy to talk yourself down when you're tired and you're in pain.
Definitely, it's a very much like it was one of those things that showed me what David Goggins talks about. Like, where I was like, I have nothing. Like, I would do like 30k, and I would be like, if I'm going to be in trouble with this, I need to do another 10k a day. And I was like, bodies and bits back can barely move. And
it's pushing through that barrier, though, isn't it? Like, to actually get to where you want to be. So it must have been such an amazing accomplishment.
It was because once you come through something like that, you're like, there's literally not any fitness challenge in the world that scares me. Like, I could do it all. Like, see.
Oh my God, I wish I was like that.
And but I wasn't like that before it. Like, but see now, it's like, see once you do that, and you feel that you're not going to do it, and then you get it done, you're like, there's not a workout you could do for me that I would be like, oh, this is scary. Like, I'm just like, well, once you do something where you're just in the gym all day, every day, you're like, I can just do it all. Do you know what I mean? So but it just made me think about what you were saying about like feeling chilled out, because honestly, I've never felt more chilled out in my life. I was just people would be trying to start arguments with me, and I'd be like, I'm not interested.
So do you get trolled on social media?
Do you know, I don't really. I don't actually, and I'm scared to say that now because I bet some dicks will listen to this and be like, I'm going to message somebody.
That'll be about me, it's all right. And my lips are deflated, so they can't say shit.
But no, I'm surprised that throughout doing this, I've not really had much negativity, which is good. I mean, I've had like a couple here and there be like, just be, get trolls online, but like in terms of overall, there's not been anything that I've been like that's just shook me, or it's not came in its droves yet, I'm sure. But that is something you need to be aware of as you're doing this, is that the bigger it gets, the more that's going to be possible. But the thing is as well is like, the more you do well, the more that there are going to be people that don't like it because of the fact that there's an element of people don't like seeing you succeed too much. And I've worked really hard to get to this where it is now, but I'm also looking at it and going, it's not even slightly where it's going to be at. I know that because I'm going to get better at it, and people are going to get more into it. And I feel like there's a bunch of different podcasts and stuff out there, but I feel like I'm doing a specific thing where it is about me in the sense of, I want to do something with it, but a big part of the motivation is the fact that I feel like this is I've got a specific message, a specific sort of thing that I want to highlight, and I feel like isn't being highlighted in the billion podcasts that are out there. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. There might be, it's the same as PTs. There might be a lot of them, but a lot of them are shit. So you need to look at it. A lot of them are amazing and a lot aren't. So you just need to look at it and go, well, this is my thing, and it's, exactly what your values are, and you know how good you want to be. So it'll grow and grow and grow and be even more amazing. I mean, I'm on it, mate. I can edit that. No, but it's going to be, you know what I mean? Like, there might be a lot of podcasts out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all good.
Yeah,
so
it's
as long as you're
quality.
doing
exactly,
it's a fucking quality comment.
See,
I was just wondered if you got, like, because you do have a podcast, I sometimes see that people getting trolled and things like that. So I was just curious with being big on social media, if you ever had anything like that.
I've had people be kind of resentful. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm trying to tongue twister. Resentful. That's what I'm looking for. See, that was I've not drank enough water today, but I'm saying that there's people that get kind of that are sort of like, how did you get this person on, and how did you get? Like, once you start doing well and you're getting more high profile guests like yourself. And,
high profile, here we go.
People start going, how did you get them on? How can I get, and it's like, you weren't there when I was nowhere near that. Yeah. I got here through, people have helped me, like people like Paul and Lindsay and Matt. Mm-hmm. Paul and Matt do a podcast together. They had me on theirs at the beginning of all this, before I'd even really, when I started it, but I wasn't in the podcast world, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so they sort of helped me bring into that, and then Paul was like, I can help you with this and that, and we developed a friendship through that. And then people like Lindsay, who is a photographer she's amazing, she's a brilliant photographer, but she comes in and just she's buzzing to help me in any way she can. It's very much like if you're a good person and you're doing the right things and you're
put it out, it returns like a boomerang effect.
Yeah, like people gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
But the more people realize you're fake, the more people like jump away at it.
Yeah, of course they do.
So the reason why I know it's going to get bigger and better is because I'm going to get, like, as I'm keeping myself, more and more people will gravitate towards that.
Yeah, exactly. They do. That's the most important part, is be your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And as you say, the right people will gravitate towards you. And when you were saying there, like people, that sort of resentment, that's when we were talking about comparing. People are comparing your A to Z. They're not comparing all the stuff that you did in the process to get there. And that's when people get a wee bit guilty. You've got a podcast and it's amazing and that's great, but you don't need to resent someone for that. Take inspiration from that and go, look what Kieran's achieved in this amount of time. I could do that if I apply myself. So instead of watching you and your accomplishments as a negative, see it as a positive, and then go and do something that you want to do the same.
Exactly. I mean, that's it. Because I want people, you know, when I was younger, there was nobody really in a wheelchair doing anything, really. Mm-hmm. There was nothing I could aspire to be. There was nothing that was out there that was...
So you need to create that person for other people.
Exactly. So
that's exactly what I said.
That's what I've kind of developed into. I spent most of my young life looking for somebody to look up to, and then you get to a point where you're like, well, I can actually just be that person. Yeah. For the next people, and it's about realizing that you're not a child anymore. You're now an adult, and you need to figure out how can I turn this into something that makes it easier for the next person, and that's really what it's all about.
It's amazing.
That and ability, anyway. All that. But
I'll trademark that for you.
But we need to decide who we're going to take the piss out of, though. For sure. Like,
we need to find someone.
I know.
If not, we need to just sit here and be like, right, I see your challenge, but I raise you an eating challenge. I'm just going to bring like all sorts of scran and be like, Kieran, mate, we're getting this filmed. Come ahead, I will out-eat this.
Do you know what? I would definitely do that. But no, listen, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to do a workout in your gym. It should be
anytime.
It should be good. Although, you know, that your group sounds like a quite an intense group. So
just come in with me. I'll be nice and calm, and then you can meet the group because they will terrify you out the door.
Because I need to make sure I'm on the boat ready to go. By the sounds of it.
I know, but the good thing is I've got all the equipment that will suit you in your chair as well.
Oh, brilliant.
So I've got a ramp, I've got all the equipment that can be adapted as well. So
and that's a Hunter's Hill?
Hunter's Hill. It can all be adapted.
It's literally, I can't believe how close that is to my house.
I know, I just pop up for a wee cup and a goss.
Of course. But yeah, I look forward to keep talking to you, and this was a lot of fun.
I know it was.
I really enjoyed this.
It was. We did it again.
How long did we go for?
120.
Oh my God, did we?
That's
what I told you. I don't shut the fuck up, man. What?
That's honestly the best quality of a podcast guest. So it was good. You know, that's what you want. It's better.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad.
I would talk to you all day, but I think that.
So who's your next guest that you've got?
Well, we just recorded one with Tony Hamilton. He's the head of the Celtic Foundation, and we spoke about the challenge and what I've done, and they do a lot of work for charities and stuff like that. So I wanted to highlight that. And I'm trying to get wheelchair football teams on the go.
Amazing.
So I'm trying to get Celtic and Rangers to do wheelchair football teams, and that
would be incredible.
It would be unbelievable. And I basically, like, yesterday while I was sitting here, just spent 20 minutes telling them why this needs to happen and pure pouring my heart out and all that.
Good.
So hopefully...
hopefully it's heard then. It would be so good if you were heard. That would be amazing.
We've got a couple of... I mean, it went well and it seemed to... The door's open for it. I just need to make sure that I put it the right way I can. And then once I give them the best sort of, for lack of a better word, pitch, then we'll just take it from there and it's up to them. But I see it like, you know, there's been a big push for women in football in different areas and different people realising that there's other sports. And I feel like if you've seen, you know, like if you've seen like mainstream football teams releasing kits with the men's team, the women's team, and then a wheelchair football team with a person in the wheelchair next to it, it changes the whole social conversation.
Yeah.
So I was trying to explain to him that it's bigger than just a football team.
Yeah.
This is about including people. It's about
That's exactly.
So I'm doing my best, and we'll see how that goes. But
you'll make it work. I can guarantee it.
But I'm looking forward to this coming out. People will enjoy this.
Good. I'm glad. Don't shut the fuck up. But good luck editing that one. Apologies. I talk a lot.
Well,
so who's next after me?
So
Did you get anyone else booked?
I've just booked a couple of football guys there. So we've got Simon Donnelly.
I'm going to be pure useless at this point. I mean, are they single? They say it can be arranged.
You need to end it out in case of answers.
Oh no, you would give a fuck. Take her. She's an absolute cunt, have her.
But no, I've got a couple of like wrestlers, and I try and make it a variety thing. I don't want to be put in a certain box of that. I could talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And I feel like the different people you can talk to, the more perspectives you're able to take in, which allows you to grow as a person as well. So
definitely,
I want to make it as big a variety podcast as possible. It's not all about, you see different podcasts that go down one specific lane. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to show that no matter how different everybody is, we all have things we can relate to.
Yeah. You can see as well with some podcasts as well, is they go for people with large social media followings in order to feed their sort of bigger picture. I'm trying to think of the term I would say.
Ego.
Yeah, they're literally just trying to make sure that their social media grows as much as possible. So they don't have the right intention behind the guest that they've got on. They're kind of piggybacking off of their success to propel their own instead of.
It's a fame hunger thing rather than a task, and that's why the task oriented thing that you're doing, like the one that you have out, the true to your values, is always going to be the thing that rises to the top.
Always.
So I have no doubt that like, because even just now, like this setup and stuff, I started this in my room on Zoom. Do you know what I mean? That's it's mad to think about how far it's progressed. And we've not even hit a year yet, so
exactly what you're going to achieve in the next year.
It's exciting. As long as
don't forget about me when you're famous, but
of course not. You'll be just as famous as me.
No, I could not do fame. Couldn't do it.
This has been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for coming on. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.